Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another reading vlog for my physical TBR takedown. You guys may or may not know that I started this with 50 books on my physical TBR. I am now down to 47, and my goal is to get it down to 30 before I can buy more books to put on the TBR cart. So today, for this week, we are going to have, I am going to have a wheel pick the books that I am reading. So I have created a wheel on the website wheelofnames.com. I have added every book on my physical TBR to the wheel, and I'm just going to spin it and have it pick a title. I will say there are some that I left out because I know I will be reading them for vlogs. There are some that I left out because they are nonfiction that I don't want to pick up right now. And I feel like nonfiction is not the best to read in a reading vlog, so I kind of left those out. And then there were a few that I left out because I was just like, I'm not reading that right now. Like House of Leaves, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. But most of everything else is on there. So let me go ahead and get the wheel open, and then we'll just spin for the first book. It's Monday. It's the first day of the challenge. And then obviously the amount of books that I get through in this reading vlog is really going to be dependent upon what the wheel chooses for us. So if I get a longer book or one that's more dense, then I will be reading less books than if I were to get some good fast-paced and shorter books. Hopefully that makes sense. So I've got you guys focused on the wheel. I guess I just tap it. Okay. Why am I scared? It's like this is determining my fate right now. Okay, which one is it? Joyland by Stephen King. Okay, that's not bad. I was debating leaving this one off because I wasn't sure if I wanted to read it in October for spooky season. Originally I was going to last October, but I feel like from what I've heard about this, it's not really like a spooky, scary Stephen King book. So I'm excited. Okay, this is the first read for this week, so let's get started. I can't tell if this is crooked, but we're going with it anyways because I have some exciting mail to open, which I know you're probably like, isn't the whole point of this like you're supposed to be going on a book buying ban and not adding books to the physical TBR? And yes, that is correct. However, this specific book is something that I've had my eye on for a while, like since it was announced, and I also ordered it before I stated aloud that I was going on a book buying ban. And also, it's only like half a TBR read, which you'll understand in a second. But the other thing also that I'm here to do is, I feel like I need scissors to open this. I wanted to do an update on Joyland because I've been reading that. It's been like a busy couple of days, so I've been reading that a little bit slower, but I am like 215 pages in through it now, so I think I have like 80 or so pages until the end, and I am enjoying it. I feel like it's kind of a hard one to classify because I don't know, on Goodreads people have it listed as horror. That's like the #1 genre that pops up, but it feels kind of just like fiction, but then it also is like kind of mystery, but it's really not, like, I wouldn't classify it as horror. It's basically about this boy that we're following. He's 21 years old at the time of the events in the story, but it's like very clearly narrated by him in the future, and he's like telling you about this time in his life where for the summer he started working at Joyland, which is an amusement park, and his plan was to go there, work there for the summer, and then go back to college in the fall. And it's kind of just about this time in his life and the way that things change and the people that he meets and the decisions that he makes. But there's also a little bit of a mystery because there is a specific ride at this amusement park that is kind of thought to be haunted because a girl was murdered in it at some point. So it's kind of a mystery with that because like the murderer was never caught, and now the main character and some of his friends are kind of digging into it, and they realize that there are some other murders that have occurred that might kind of be connected or like were committed by the same person, and they're trying to really figure out the mystery of like who actually killed this girl and like who the murderer is. But then, like I said, it's also a a lot about the people that our main character is coming in contact with. There are two side characters specifically that he is forming a relationship with, and you know that they're significant because they don't really come in, I would say, until like after 100 pages into the book. But from the very beginning, like, it's mentioned, like, I hadn't met so and so yet. Oh, I wouldn't meet so and so for another like couple of weeks, or however it's like worded. He talks about them earlier on, but you don't actually get to meet them until later in the book. And so now I'm very curious like where that storyline is going to go, because I feel like that is where most of the emotional impact comes from, as far as like what I've seen from reviews. Anyways, I don't have the book with me because I got too excited about opening my package, which I always do this. I'm like, oh, it'll be a good idea to like open a package and talk on camera, forgetting that it's loud when you open a package and you can't really talk over that. Oh god, did I just bend the book? Oh. Yes. 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 Are you guys ready for this? Heck yeah. So, I say this is only half a TBR read because I have read The Babysitter Lives. So, if you don't know, this previously was only available through audio, and so I ended up, I think last year, I got the audiobook on Spotify and listened to it, and it was a 5-star for me. Like, it's freaking amazing. One of my favorites, Stephen Graham Jones, I think. But Killer on the Road, I have not read. And so when they announced that they were doing like this mashup and finally doing a physical print of The Babysitter Lives, you guys know, I was like, this is not a want, this is a need. And so I finally went ahead and ordered it. But Killer on the Road will be a TBR ad. So I'm going to put it on the wheel, and maybe later tonight when I pick my next read, maybe it'll end up being this. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't really have much more to say about Joyland other than I'm enjoying it. And I'm really curious to see where it goes and if they do solve the mystery of like who the killer is. And I feel like there's going to be kind of a twist, and it's going to be like a character that we've gotten to know throughout the book. That's all for now. I am going to, because I'm just like fresh home from work, take a shower and chill out and finish my book, and then I will come back, give you guys that final update, and then pick my next read, which I'm very excited for and also a little nervous for. Hi, it is later in the night. I have finished Joyland, and I've decided to give this 4 stars because I did really enjoy it. It did kind of everything that I expected it to do, and it wrapped up the way that I expected it to wrap up based off of what the book itself was. But I still really liked it. I feel like the setting was described perfectly of Joyland and being in this like amusement park land, and I thought it was so fun at the beginning of the book, seeing our main character like come into this where he knows like nothing obviously as a job and is just kind of like thrown into it, and he has to kind of learn everything as he goes. And I thought that was really fun to see him like from the very beginning being like the new kid who is completely clueless to becoming like one of them and really fitting in with this group of people. I thought all of that was really fun to follow. And then we also have like the murder mystery that's kind of unfolding in the background, and then of course on the more emotional, heartfelt side, a lot of the focus is on a specific relationship and a specific friendship that our main character finds himself in. And I really just liked the way that everything developed. And like I said, even though it didn't do anything crazy, it was still very enjoyable, and I feel like everything was very well balanced. Like there wasn't too much or not enough of like any of the different elements. I feel like everything came together really well. I like the way the story wrapped up. I'm still not really sure what I would classify this as a genre, because I could see it being horror. Like I could see people calling this kind of quiet horror because it is a little bit supernatural, like paranormal in nature, but it's also really focused on a mystery. So I don't really know what sort of genre to put this in, but I know this is part of the hard case crime. I guess there's a bunch of different novels with this label. I don't really know what it means, but I know that Stephen King has 3 books that are part of the hard case crime collection. I don't know. So I do want to read the other 2 at some point, but this one was enjoyable. I would recommend it. I'm going to put it on the side now because I'm going to pull up the wheel and we're going to pick my next read because it's only 8:15. I still have time to read tonight, and I know I'm going to have time to read tomorrow. So hopefully I get something good. Okay, I have brought y'all in close. Let's spin it. And I'm scared. I'm always scared. What is it? It is Where You End. So let me grab that off of the cart. I know it's at the top. This is one that I got from Aardvark, honestly, a while ago. And it was one that I kind of decided to take a chance on because I had never heard of it before it was an Aardvark option. Since then, I feel like I've seen not good reviews for this. So, hopefully I like it. Let's see what it says. It is a spellbinding fiction debut inspired by true events. An unusual form of amnesia derails the lives of identical twins, forcing them to face the indelible, dangerous shadow of the past. So hopefully I enjoy it. We're going to take the dust jacket off so I can start reading. Look at those colors. Oh, Aardvark, I love them so much. I canceled my subscription a while ago because I didn't have money to justify like the monthly subscription, but now that I have cheaper rent and a higher paying job, I'm like, the temptation is there to get an Aardvark subscription because they always have like the best picks. But maybe I should read the ones I have first, right? So let's read this and see where it gets us. So I started Where You End last night and I got about 60 pages in, and I've been reading a little bit more today, and I decided to take a break about 130 pages in, and I wanted to give you guys my first update. I don't know how I'm feeling about it so far. The story is about these 2 twin sisters, and we start off the book with an accident, a car accident, and one of the sisters suffers from amnesia after that. So we have Kat and we have Jude, and they are 22 years old when this accident occurs, and Kat is the one that cannot remember anything. It's kind of a weird sort of memory loss that she has. The only thing she remembers is her sister, but she doesn't remember like their parents, their upbringing, like anything about their life, but she remembers Jude and like that Jude is her twin sister, which is kind of a weird situation, and all the doctors are like, this is really weird, we've never seen like amnesia or like memory loss that has presented in this way, but whatever. And then we kind of very quickly get into the story, and Jude takes Kat home after she recovers in the hospital and is telling her about like what their life was and like about Kat and like who she is as a person, and like, oh, you used to always do this, this is something that you like to do, this is something that we do. And it's very, very clear early on that Jude is lying, like constructing false memories and feeding that to Kat of things that aren't actually true to what their life was like, or even really what Kat probably was like before. And now that we're a little bit more into the book, we are getting some flashbacks from Jude's perspective of when they were kids. So what the vibe is right now is kind of giving a little bit like culty. When the girls were pretty young, I think around like 10 years old, their mother got kind of involved with this, I don't even know what to call it, this like program, this group of people, and I think that we are starting to now see that progression, that it's going to get kind of more sinister and weird and cult-like the longer it goes on, and I'm sure it will come to affect the girls' lives and kind of play a role in the type of lifestyle that Kat and Jude now live, and maybe why Jude has been lying to her sister instead of telling the truth about what their upbringing was like. It's got a little bit of some weird vibes right now, and I'm curious to see where that goes and see the progression of that, because I think that's really, really interesting, because like it's starting off pretty harmless, but you can definitely see the hints of like something darker to come. And I just think like cults are really, really interesting, and especially like the language used and the way that they get people kind of indoctrinated into cults without those people even realizing that they're in a cult and realizing what's going on. I think it's really, really fascinating. So I'm excited to see that exploration in here, but I'm not really feeling very strongly towards the story right now. I don't really feel connected to either of the characters, and it feels very like young adult, even though the characters we're following are 22 years old. It feels very, very young, and I just feel like I don't really know who Jude and Kat are, which of course I'm sure some of that is intentional, because Kat obviously like has memory loss and she herself doesn't really know who she is, so we are not really going to know who she is. But it's just not really, I just don't feel connected to the characters, and I don't know, it's just like okay so far. I feel like the writing is pretty average, very young feeling. There's also like this inclusion of the sisters, like when they were kids they kind of made up their own like secret language to talk to each other, and that is included in the book, and I'm really torn about it because I feel like that is very like realistic to something that children would do, but it's not really that fun to like read it, because it's kind of just like it looks like gibberish and then they tell you what it means, and I don't know, I get it, but I'm not really the biggest fan of like reading it. So I'm having very mixed feelings at the moment, but I am curious to see where the story goes overall with the storyline and what happened to them in their past, and like what is possibly trying to catch up to them in the present. That's all for now. I will give you guys an update later once I'm further into it, or possibly once I'm finished with the book. I just got Dunkin', and let me say, I am not a pumpkin fan. I love pumpkin food, like pumpkin bread, pumpkin pie, pumpkin cookies, pumpkin muffins, all of that. Love it so much. But I have never been a fan of like the pumpkin drinks that everybody always loses their minds over. But every single year, I think it's going to be the year that I start to like pumpkin drinks. So this is my yearly pumpkin beverage from Dunkin'. I just got a cold brew with pumpkin and oat milk, because that's like my normal order anyways, is just a cold brew with some sort of flavor. Let's see. Will this be my year to start liking pumpkin? I don't think it will be. Like, I just want to eat it in a cookie or a bread. I don't want to drink it. I don't know. Disappointing. Gonna drink it anyways. Let's do some reading though. I gotta be honest, this book is starting to piss me off because it's just so stupid at so many moments. I am not much further in from the last time that I saw you guys, but like the urge to DNF is strong, because I don't feel very inclined to pick this book up, but I also don't want to DNF it because, you know, I spent money on this and I want to at least like read it because I paid for it. But like, Something so stupid just happened that made me roll my eyes. Let me just give a little bit of spoilers. Okay, so if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead. But Kat, the one that we are following that has amnesia, she is like starting sort of a romantic relationship with this guy that she meets, and she like plays poker with him or whatever. I don't fucking know. But she has all these like anger issues that she doesn't know why, where they came from. And she kind of has these episodes where she just kind of like, it feels like she's not in control of her body and she does these crazy things. So there's one incident where she like destroyed this thing in this room and he was there, and then she was like, I'm so sorry, and like told him what was going on and like that she has amnesia or whatever. And then just like in the last chapter that I read, she got, they were like kissing and he like reached out and touched her, and that like triggered this automatic response in her body, and she just like beat him the fuck up like on the ground, kicking and punching him till he's like bleeding, and now is like trying to make up with him, and she's like, I think I love you. Tell me that's not the stupidest thing you've ever heard. Like, what the fuck? And like, let's be honest, like what is this guy doing? Because I think that their romantic relationship is like something we're supposed to be rooting for, and like we're supposed to be wanting them to make up, and we're supposed to have like empathy for Kat, and like of course I empathize with her, but like, girl, you need to go to like therapy and like work through this shit professionally and not get anybody else involved in your mess. And like, I feel like, you know, this guy's gonna end up forgiving her, and then they're gonna, you know, go back to having this relationship, and he's probably gonna be like, I love you too. But like, bro, what are you doing? She literally beat you up until you were bleeding. And like, yeah, I know she's got issues, but like, get away. Like why would you want to be involved in that? I just don't understand. So it's not going well, but I'm gonna keep reading, and we'll see. We'll see if I end up tapping out or not. I don't know. If I'm speaking a little bit quietly, it's because my boyfriend is sleeping in the next room. But I finished Where You End. I'm giving it 2 stars because it was really lame, and throughout the whole time it kept that sense of just like feeling like a young adult book, even though it's not. I didn't really find like the mystery to be very interesting. Like, at no point did this feel like how you want to feel when you're reading a thriller. Like, you want to feel thrilled, on the edge of your seat. You want to feel like the characters are in danger. You want suspense and tension, and I just didn't get any of that. I was not emotionally connected to the characters, and I don't know, there were so many like things that just didn't make sense to me personally. It's mostly like a psychological focus on like the idea of Kat losing her entire memory except for this one person, and that's all she has to put her trust in, and just hope that this person is telling her the truth as she's trying to piece together who she is. And I think that that's a really interesting like component, but I think that there are probably other books that have done that same idea a lot better than this one. I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy it. It was really boring for like covering the topics that it did cover, and unfortunately it's probably just a personal fault that I wanted this book to be something different. I think that it had so many interesting ideas introduced, but I wish that it went more in depth with them, and I wish that it got darker, because there's no reason it should have been as boring as it was for, like I said, what the content was in here, because it could have been so good and it just wasn't. Also, like, one of the big pet peeves of mine is this like made up language that Kat and Jude have, which, like I said, it makes sense like when they're kids that they would have this, and it's realistic and I get it, but they were talking in this language like in full sentences throughout the entire book, all the way up until the end. I'm like, you are grown. Like, why are we talking like this? and it just doesn't, I don't know, to me it doesn't make sense to have it in the book. But the thing that really gets me too is the fact that the language itself doesn't even make sense, at least not to me, because you can tell what they're saying when you're reading it, because what their language is taking like the words of a sentence and like saying it out of order and like kind of rearranging the letters in a sentence and then saying the words out of order, if that makes sense. So on paper, when you're looking at it, you can tell what it is because you can see all the letters as it's written out and you just rearrange them in your head. But phonetically, like if they are speaking this out loud, that doesn't make any sense to me, because like I tried to say some of the sentences out loud and you can't tell what the words are supposed to be unless you're looking at how it's spelled on paper. So makes even less sense now, taking that into consideration. I don't know, that just kind of like pissed me off every time that they were doing that, because it's like, this is just a waste of space on this page because you're gonna translate it right below, so like what is the point? Really, really sad this did not work for me, but let's go ahead and get our next book. Here she is. Let's go for it. You guys tell me if this is a good book. I feel like the wheel has been nice so far, and I hope that that stays. And it is Una Out of Order. So let me grab this off of the TBR cart real quick. Here she is. This is kind of exciting. This is a little bit different vibe than the last two books, I think, but I've heard really, really good things about this, and I feel like it will be good for me. It will be a good experience. I guess this is about a woman who, I think every day she wakes up, she's in like a different year of her life, and she's just kind of existing that way. I don't think there's really like a mystery that she's trying to solve or figure out why or like put the pieces in order. I think that's just her existence, and I'm kind of excited to read this. So Una Out of Order is the next read for this video. So I was all ready and very excited to settle down for the night and finish my book. I have about 130 pages left, and then I just realized that I never updated you guys and told you how I'm feeling about it. So like I mentioned, I'm a little bit over 200 pages in through Una Out of Order now, and I am really, really liking this book, and it did not take me long to feel that way because I feel like I was instantly hooked. It's just like the type of story that I really, really enjoy reading and following. So Una obviously is the main character that we are following, and we meet her in 1982 at the beginning of the book, and it is New Year's Eve when the story starts, and her birthday is New Year's Day. So she's at this big party, obviously celebrating New Year's, and she's also celebrating her birthday once it hits midnight. So she is 18 years old. She has like the rest of her life ahead of her. She is kind of having a difficult time making a decision. She is split between traveling to London to continue her education or to stay back and go on tour with her boyfriend and the band that they are in. And she doesn't know what to decide. But aside from that, she's very happy. She's surrounded by people that she loves and people that she cares about. And then the countdown to midnight happens. She starts feeling a little bit weird. And then the next morning, she wakes up, and mentally, she's just turned 19. But physically, she's 51 years old, and she's in the future in 2015, and she doesn't know what the fuck just happened, which is valid. I just realized I should have got the dust jacket because like holding up a blank book isn't really doing that much. Anyways, so we come to learn that she is just existing, like living her adult life out of order. Each section of the book is separated, so you probably can't see, but it says 2015 51/19. So physically she's 51, mentally she's 19. And then the next leap that she does, physically she's 27, mentally she's 20, and she goes back to the year 1991. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. She is just kind of jumping around and just living each year of her life out of order. And I really, really like that. Like I said, it's just kind of like this story, the type of story that I really enjoy following, where it's like a little bit kind of magical feeling, I guess, and just the idea of like this person who is jumping around and experiencing all these different things without really knowing why. They're kind of in this situation that they don't know like how anything works, why it's happening, but they just kind of have to go with it and just live with it. And that is what this book is. Like, it's not one of those where she is trying to solve it or put her life back in order. Like, she is just, this is her existence, and she is just going through life that way, and there's nothing that she's really trying to solve or figure out, which I think is just really fun, seeing her in these different environments and seeing the different leaps and how she has to adjust to each separate year of her life. However, there are a few things that I'm a little bit confused about. So like I said, this is not a book where you get like the why of everything, how it started, like why it's happening, and that's perfectly fine with me. But logistically, I'm a little bit confused about like how things actually work in the book. So for example, when she wakes up in 2015 after her first like leap or whatever, so she goes from being 18 years old at this party, she wakes up and she's 51 years old in the future. She has a note that was written by the version of her that lived through 2014. So 2014 Una like wrote out a note before midnight knowing that the next version would be like a new person. And I feel like that makes sense, right? Like, knowing that at the end of this year, me from a different era is going to live through the next year, like, I can understand leaving a note. However, like, in the note, it's saying, like, and this is happening in every section, like, she's getting a note from the past year. And I don't understand it because it's, like, mentioning specific things, like, you are going to meet this person and do this thing, and you have already done this thing. And to me, I just like don't understand how that makes sense, because it's not like a time loop. It's not like she's living these lives or these years like over and over again. Like, she's only gets one time to live in that year. It's just out of order. So I don't know how, I don't know. It's just like one of the, like, am I thinking about it too hard and like making it more complicated than it needs to be in my brain? Or is it actually that complicated? But if I put on my blinders and I just ignore that, I'm really, really liking the story. I'm really, really liking the characters and just seeing the fun things that Una gets into, and just like the situations that she finds herself in. Like, for example, she goes to 1 year and there's a man there and she's like, who the fuck are you? Why are you in my house? And he's like, I'm your husband. What are you talking about? And it's just fun to see her like navigate that and just get thrown into these situations, and she just has to go with it. And this is definitely like this type of book, like this type of story. I feel like there's always kind of a similar message, like to any sort of general fiction that plays with time in this way. It's really, you know, like, live in the moment, appreciate the time you have. And I get that, a very simple message, and they all kind of have that same message, and I think this one is going to be no different. But I'm not, like, at this point, I'm not reading it for that message. I'm just reading it because it's fun and entertaining. So it's going well for me, even though there's a few things that I can't work out in my brain. But I am going to sit down. It's been a pretty quick read, so I am optimistic that I can finish this tonight. Like I said, about 130 pages. Should be pretty easy to get through, and I'm excited to see where we go next with Miss Una. So, I have now finished Una Out of Order. I honestly don't remember what I last told you guys about this book because it's been like 2 or 3 days since I did finish it. But I'm landing on a rating of 4 stars because I did really, really enjoy this. I feel like it gave me everything that I was seeking, although there were a few points where I was a little bit confused. I think it did what I expected it to do, and there's like a little fluff floating around. I had a fun time reading it. I really liked Una as a character and I loved following her throughout these different situations. It just had a lot of like tropes, I guess, that I really enjoyed. I would not hesitate to recommend this to anybody. I think I enjoyed the way that the book wrapped up. There was also some things that were kind of like a reveal later on. Like, it definitely doesn't feel like one of those books where there's a mystery or there's gonna be a plot twist, but then there kind of is towards the end, and I really just like the way that everything came together, and I just think it was a very fun, very enjoyable read. But I just can't say too much about it because I feel like that gives away too much. I think just going in, knowing the base premise and knowing what to expect from the book, you will be satisfied in the end. So I am going to go ahead and end the reading vlog here. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do another book. Like, it sounds really, really fun, but I feel like just cutting it off now and doing 3 books for this episode is a good idea. So I have read 3 books from my physical TBR, but I also did haul one, which you guys saw. So technically I'm only knocking off 2. So at the beginning of the video we were at 47, now we are at 45. So stay tuned for the next episode of me trying to read from my physical TBR. I think I will definitely do this like wheel idea again because it was really, really fun, and just letting the wheel of fate determine my future for reading was very, very enjoyable. Let me know if you guys liked it, if you would be interested in seeing this as a second episode. And with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.